أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر The prayer, page 103. This is what they taught of prayer. You pray in your distress and in your need, that you might pray also in the fullness of your joy and in your days of abundance. For what is prayer but the expansion of yourself into the living ether? And if it is for your comfort to pour your darkness unto space, it is also for your delight to power forth the drawing of your heart. 11:11 p.m. on my alarm. Tonight, Tuesday, May 21st, the day of the unfailing vision. The world, all's well that ends well. And if it is for your comfort to pour your darkness into space, it is also for your delight to pour forth the dawning of your heart. And if you cannot but weep when your soul summons you unto prayer, She should spur you again and yet again through weeping until you shall come laughing. When you pray, you rise to meet in the air those who are praying at this very hour, and whom serve save in prayer you may not want. Therefore, let your visits to the masjid be invisible, for aught not but ecstasy and sweet communion. For if you should enter the masjid for no other purpose than asking, you shall not receive. And if you shall enter into it to humble yourself, you shall not be lifted. Or even if you shall enter into it to beg for the good of others, you shall not be heard. It is enough that you enter the temple invisible. I cannot teach you how to pray. 11:13 a.m. p.m. on my alarm. Are you looking for purity? I cannot teach you how to pray in words. Listen to the messages of Anu from the Elohim to your words, save when Be himself utters them through your lips. And I cannot teach you the prayer of Yam, meaning the sea and the forest and mountains. But you who are born of the mountains and the forest and the Yam can find their prayer in which are thine until the days which are thine also. We cannot ask you for anger. But you who are born of the mountains and the forests and yams can find their prayer in which are thine into days, which are thine also. We cannot ask you for aught, but thou knowest our needs before they are born in us. You are our need, and in giving us more of thyself, thou givest us all. But those who know pray this prayer. Our Heavenly Father, for you are the all, and the all, and you are in the all, and all is in you. You're head of the 300 Ijiji of those Anunnakis who are still in the skies. O most holy, your name is found amongst the holy ones, the Anunnaki of the heavens. For you were to name all of the things that were brought into existence. Blessed is your name, O most holy. Your name is found amongst the holy ones, the Anunnakis of the heavens. For you were to name all the things that were brought into existence. Blessed is your name. Nothing and no one can give you a name, for your name is of the all. You have been appointed anew. O Anu, your kingdom will come, and what you will and ask of us will be done on earth, Tiamat, just as things are done in the heavenly skies amongst the Anunnaki. When we ask you to please give us the bread of life each day, where we rise, and we will procreate as you wish, and forgive us if we disagree as we forgive those who disagree with us, and protect us from the evil ones and their temptations. For you are the ruler of the kingdoms, and all power is yours, and the glory forever and ever. And we know you have appointed one of the Yahwehs, your own grandson, Adonai, to Tammuz, as our shepherd, and we have all we need, as you and the Anunnakis declare. Verily, we have given you all the abundance. So pray unto your sustainer and offer. Verily, your enemy shall be the one cut off. His seed will be cut off after 6,000 years from the most holy day. He let us rest in the outer fields of green grass and leads us to quiet pools of fresh water. He gives us new strength. He guides us in the right path as he has promised. Even if we go through the deepest fears of death, we will not be afraid, because we know that you are with us. Your flares, rod, and your wands protect us from disagreeableness. You prepare a table for us, whereas all our enemies can see. You welcome us as an honored guest among your ships and fill our cups to the brim. We know that your goodness and love shall be with us all of our lives, and your house will be our house as long as we exist. Page 429, Tablet 3. We'll start up at 104. Draw near to him, 105. And make your voice heard, and stand your ground. He will be calm by the night, by the sight of you. The Yahweh rejoiced at the words of his father, and he approached and stood before Ansar. And Ansar looked at him, and his heart was filled with joy. He kissed them on the lips and put away his trepidation. The Marduk addressed them, saying, Father, don't stay so silent. Open your lips. Let me go, and let me fulfill your heart's desire. Ruler of Anshar, don't stay so silent. Open your lips. Let me go, and let me fulfill your heart's desires. And Shard replied, what kind of man have ordered you out to his war? My son, don't you realize that it is the inhabitants of Tiamat and Ishtar, ruler of womankind, who will advance against you with arms? Marduk answered, Father, my creator, rejoice and be glad. You shall soon set your foot upon the neck of the inhabitants of Tiamat. And Shar replied, then go, son, knowing all wisdom, quell Tiamat with your pure spell. Set forth immediately in the craft of the sound of lightning, a storm chariot. Let its mission not be to drive them out, but rather to turn them back. The Yahweh rejoiced at the words of his father. His heart was glad, and he addressed his father, Yahweh of the Elohim, fate of the great Anunnaki. And indeed, I am to be your champion if I am to defeat those who have occupied Tiamat and have your lives. Convene the council. Name a special fate. Sit joyfully together in UBSHU UKKINAKKU. My own utterance shall fix fate instead of you. Whatever I create shall never be altered. The decree of my lips shall never be revoked and never changed. Tablet 3. And Shar speaks to Kaka. Lo, and Shar made his voice heard and addressed his speech to Kaka, his Yahweh. O Kaka, Yahweh, who please me, I shall send you to Lahmu, Mars, and Laamu, Venus. You shall know how to probe. You are not skilled in speaking. Have the Anunnaki, my fathers, brought you before me. Let all the Anunnaki be brought to page 230, me. Let there be conversations. Let them sit at a banquet. Let them eat grain. Let them drink choice wine. And then let them decree a destiny for Marduk, their champion. Set off, Kaka, and go and stand before them, and everything that I am about to tell you, repeat to them. Anshar, your son, has sent me. He has told me to report his heart's message. I sent Anu, but he was unable to face her alone. Nudimmud panicked and turned back. Then Marduk, sage of the Anunnaki, your son came before. He wanted, of his own free will, to confront the inhabitants of Tiamat. He addressed his words to me. If indeed I am to be your champion, to defeat the inhabitants of Tiamat and save your lives, convene the council, name a special fate, sit joyfully together in UBSHU-UKKINAKKU, and let me in your own utterance fix fate instead of you. Whatever I create shall never be altered. Let a decree from my lips never be revoked, will never change. Hurry and decree your destiny for him quickly, so that he may go and face your formidable enemy. Kaka set of, and went on his way. Before Lamu, Mars, and Laamu, Venus, the Anunnaki, and his fathers, he prostrated himself and kissed the ground in front of them, then straightened up and stood there and spoke to them, saying, Anshar, your son has sent me. He has told me to report his personal message that they founded a princely shrine for him. He took up residence as the ruler before his fathers. You are honored among the great Anunnaki. Your destiny is unequaled. Your word has the power of Anu. O Marduk, you have honored among the great Anunnaki. Your destiny is unequaled. Your word has the power of Anu. From this day onward, your command shall not be altered. Yours is the power to exalt and abase. May your utterance be law, and your word never be satisfied. None of the Anunnaki shall transgress your limits. May endowment required for the Anunnaki Shriners, wherever they have temples, be established for your place. O Marduk, you are our champion. We hereby give you sovereignty over all of the whole universe. Sit in the assembly, and your word shall be preeminent. May your weapons never miss the mark, and may they smash your enemies. Page 431. O Marduk, spare the life of him who trusts in you, but drain the life of the beings who have espoused evil. They set up in their midst of the one constellation, and then they addressed Marduk, their son. May your decree, O Marduk, impress the Anunnaki. Command to destroy and to recreate, and let it be so. Speak and let the constellation vanish. Speak it to it again, and the constellation was recreated. He spoke to it again, and the constellation was recreated. When the Anunnaki, his fathers, saw how effective his utterance was, they rejoiced. They proclaimed, Marduk is ruler. They invested him with scepter, throne, and staff of office. They gave him an unfaceable weapon to crush the foe. Go and cut off the life of the inhabitants of Tiamat. Let the winds bear her blood to us as good news. The Anunnaki, his fathers, thus decreed the destiny of Marduk and set him on the path of peace and obedience. He fashioned a bow, designated it as his weapon, and he feathered the arrow and set it in the string. He lifted up a mace and carried it in his right hand, slung the bow and quiver at his side, and he put lightning in front of him. His body was filled with an ever-blazing flame. He made a net to encircle Tiamat within it, marshaled the four winds so that no part of her would escape. South wind, north wind, east wind, west wind, the gift of his grandfather Anu, he kept them close to the net at his side. He created the IMHULLU-wind, evil wind, the tempest, the whirlwind, the force fields called the four winds, the seven winds like tornadoes, the unfaceable facing winds. He released the winds which he had created, and seven crafts they were. They advanced behind him to make toil inside Timat. Marduk, the ruler, raised the flood weapon, his great weapon, and mounted the frightful, unfaceable storm chariot. He had yoked to it a team of four, and he had harnessed it to its side. Slayer, pitiless, racer, and flyer, their lips were drawn back, their teeth carried poison. They know not exhaustion, they can only devastate. He stationed on his right, fearsome fight and conflict. On the left, the battle to knock down every contender, prepared to defend. Clothed in a cloak of awesome armor, his head was crowned with a terrible radiance. The ruler set out and took the road and set his face toward Tiamat, who raged out of control. In his lips he gripped a spell. In his hand he grasped a herb to counter poison. Then they thronged about him, and Anunnaki thronged about him. The Anunnaki, his fathers, thronged about him. The ruler drew near and looked into the middle of Tiamat, and he was trying to find out the strategy of Kingu, her lover. As he looked, his mind became confused. He would crumble, and his actions were muddled. As for the Anunnaki, his helpers who marched at his side, when they saw the warrior, the leader, their looks were strained. Tiamat casted her spell. She did not even turn her neck. In her lips she was holding falsehood, lies, and wheedling. Her powerful, how powerful is your attacking force, O Yahweh of the Elohim? The whole assembly of them have gathered to your place. The Yahweh of the Elohim lifted up the flood weapon, his weapon, great weapon. He sent a message to Tiamat, who formed goodwill, saying, "Why are you so friendly on the surface when your depths conspire to mutter a battle force? Just because the sons were noisy and disrespectful to their fathers, should you, who gave them birth, reject compassion? You named Kingu over your lover. You appointed him to rights of Anu power, which were wrongfully his. You sought out evil after Anshar, ruler of Anunnaki. You have compounded your wickedness against the Anunnaki, my fathers. Let your hosts prepare. Let them gird themselves with your weapons. Stand forth, and you and I shall do single combat." When Tiamat heard this, she went wild and she lost her temper. Tiamat screamed aloud in a passion. Her lower parts shook together to the depths. She recited the incantations and kept casting her spell. Meanwhile, the Anunnaki of battle were sharpening their weapons. Face to face they came, Tiamat and Marduk, sage of the Anunnaki. They engaged in combat. They closed for battle. The ruler spread his net and made it encircle her. To her face he dispatched the IMHULLU-wind, which had been behind. Tiamat opened her mouth to swallow it, and he forced in the IMHULLU wind so that she could not close her lips. Fierce winds distinct her belly. Her insides were constipated. And page 433, she stretched her mouth wide. He shot an arrow which pierced her belly, split her down the middle, and slit her heart. That vanquished her and extinguished her life. He threw down her corpse and stood on top of her. When he had slain Tiamat, the leader, he broke up her regiments, and her assembly was scattered. Then the Meldikians, her helpers, who had marched at her side, began to tremble and panic and turn tail. Although he allowed them to come out and spare their lives, they were surrounded and they could not flee. Then he tied them up and smashed their weapons. They were thrown into the net and set there ensnared. They cowered back, filled with woe. They had to bear his punishment, confined to prison. And as for the dozens of creatures covered in fearsome rays, the gang of demons who all marched on her right, he fixed them with nose ropes and tied their arms. He trampled their battlefield, stomped them beneath him. As for Kingu, who had once been the greatest amongst them, he defeated them and counted them among the dead planets, which wrested from him with the tablet of destinies, which were wrongfully his. He sealed it with his own seal and pressed it to his breast. When he had defeated and killed his enemies, and he had proclaimed the submissive Tiamat foe his slave, and he had set up the triumphal cry of Anshar over all the enemies, and he had achieved the desire of Marduk the warrior. He strengthened his hold over the captive Maldekians, and to Tiamat, whom he had ensnared, he turned back. The great ship Nibiru caused her to be trampled, and the lower part of Tiamat was scattered. With his upsparing mace, he smashed her skull, severed the arteries of her blood, and made the north wind carry it off as good news. His father saw it and were jubilant. They rejoiced, arranged to greet him with presents, greetings, and gifts. The ruler rested and inspected her corpse. He divided the monstrous shape and created marvels from it. He sliced her in half like a fish for dyeing. Half of her he put up to the roof of the sky as a new Tiamat, now called Orb. He drew an asteroid belt across the sky from the particles of her lower half, and he made a guard hold it. He arranged her waters so that they could not escape. He crossed the heavens. page 434, and sought out a shrine. He leveled Apsu, the sun, which is the dwelling of Nudimud, and he removed ruler, his rule of the solar system. The ruler Marduk measured the dimensions of Apsu, the sun. The large temple Ishagala, which he built in its image, was Esharra, the inner world created in the belly of Tiamat, called Aghaarta, and Shambhala, in the great shrine Esharra, which he had created as the sky. He founded a cult centrist for Anu, Enlil, and Nudimud. Tablet 4, Enuma Elish 3. Lo, he fashioned stands for the great Anunnaki. As for the stars, he set up constellations corresponding to them. He designated the year and marked out its division. He appointed 3 stars each to the 12 months. When he had made plans of the days of the years, he founded the stand of Nibiru to mark out their course, so that none of them could go wrong or astray. He fixed the stand of Nunamnir and Nudimud together with it, and he opened up the gates in both ribs and made strong bolts to the left and right. With her liver he located the zenith. He made the crescent moon appeared, and entrusted the shadow hours to it. He designated the moon, the jewels, the sky shadow hours to mark out the days, and to go forth every month without fail in a corona at the beginning of the month to glow over the land. You shine with horns to mark out 6 days. On the 7th day the crown is half. The 15th day shall always be the midpoint and the half of each month, with Shamash looks at you from the horizon. You shall gradually shed your visibility and begin to wane. Always bring the day of disappearance close to the path of Shamash, and on the 30th day the year is always equalized by Shamash is responsible for the year. I sign a sign shall appear in the sky and sweep along its path, when it will always approach the accused and judge the case, which caused the bow star to kill and rob. At the New Year's festival, year of remembrance, you may control the bolt of the exit that separated the shadow hours from days, the Kingu, the moon, the watches of the shadow hours of the daylight hours. The spiral of Tiamat is controlled by Marduk, the champion. He put into groups and made clouds scud, rising winds, making rain, making fog below, by collecting her. Page 435. Poison. He assigned for him and let his own hand control it. He placed her head heaped up in orbit, opening up springs. Water gushed out. He opened the Farah Tutu, the Farats and the Diglat, the Tigris, from her eyes. He closed her nostrils of her nose. He piled up clear out mountains from her udder. He bored water holes to drain off the catch water. He laid her tail across ties it fast as the cosmic bond. All done was done, and the rulership of Apsu was beneath his feet. He set her thigh to make fast the sky. With half of her he made a roof, and he fixed the earth. He caused the work, and made the insides of Tiamat surge, and spread his net, which made it extend completely. The ruler of heaven and earth, he untied their knots to coil the tail of Leviathan. Then he had designed its cult and created its rites. And he threw down the reins and made Nudimmud take them, the tablet of destinies, which Kingu had appropriate. He fetched, and he took it and presented it for a first reading before the Anunnaki and then to Anu and Medekians of battles, whom he had ensnared, were disentangled by him. He led them as captives into the presence of his father. As for the 11 creatures that Tiamat had created, he destroyed them, smashed their weapons, then tied them at his feet, made images of them, and then had them set up at the door of Apsu, the sun. Let this be a sign that will never in the future be forgotten. The Anunnaki looked, and their hearts were full of joy at the sight of him. Lamu, and Lahamu, and all his fathers embraced him, and Ashar, the ruler, proclaimed that there should be a reception for him. And Anu, Elil, and Iki each presented him with gifts. Even Damkina, his mother, exclaimed with joy at him. She made him beam inside it and his fine throne of his house. He, Marduk, appointed Usmi, who had brought his greetings present as good news, to be Yahweh of the Apsu, and to take care of shrines. The Gigi assembled, and all of them did obeisance to him. The Anunnaki, each and every one, kissed his feet. The whole assembly collected together to prostrate themselves. Rising, they stood, they bowed. Yes, ruler indeed, noble son of his father, took their fill of his manliness. They took off his clothes, which were enveloped in the dust of him of combat. His father, the Anunnaki, were attentive to him. With Cyrus nectar they sprinkled and anointed his body. He put on a princely garment, a royal aura, a splendid crown. He took up a mace and grasped it in his right hand, a staff in his left hand. He said a Mushusussu dot dash Dracongon bowed at his feet, and he placed upon his shoulders the mantle of radiance that was given to him. His net was holding control of fearful Apsu. A bull is his symbol. In the inner chamber of his throne was the tablets of destiny. In his cellar was the gifts presented to him. The Anunnaki and all his that existed honored him. Lamamu and Laamu filled with joy, and he made their voices heard, and he spoke to the Igigi. Previously, Marduk was just our beloved son, but now he is your ruler. Take heed of his command. Next, they spoke and proclaimed in unison, LUGAL-DIMMER-ANKIA- in his name, trust in him. When they gave rulership to Marduk, they spoke in orientation for him, for blessings and obedience. Henceforth, you shall be the provider of shrines for us. Whatever You command, we shall perform ourselves. Marduk made his voice heard and spoke, and he addressed his words to the Anunnaki, his fathers, over the Apsu, the sea green dwellings, in front of the inner world, Isharu, which I created for you, where I strengthened the ground beneath it for a shrine. I shall make a house to be a luxurious dwelling for myself. I shall find his cult center within it, and I shall establish my private quarters and affirm my rulership wherever you shall come up from the Apsu. The sun will be in the center of Shambhala for an assembly. Your shadow hours, resting place shall be in it, receiving you all. Whenever you go down from the sky to for an assembly, your shadow hour resting place shall be in it, receiving you all. I hereby name it home of the great Anunnaki. We shall make it the center of devotion. The Anunnaki, his fathers, listed to his command of his. And that will be the reading of tonight's word from the Holy Tablets, page 436. I'll make a note of it to start page 437. This is how it was recorded, and this is how it will be.